This is The Angel Nest, where real angel investors and entrepreneurs partner to build great companies. I'm David Hemingway, and today we have another of our series of programs with Johnnie Walker of Rooled, Outsourced CFO and Accounting Services, about how founders are getting funded in this new and more difficult environment. Rooled are the startup finance experts. Welcome back, Johnnie, and thank you for this series, which I think founders are finding to be very timely given the change in the funding markets this year.
David, it's great to be back again, so thank you very much. And agreed, it's a different world than it was 12 or 18 months ago. And so we're seeing people really raising those early rounds and then finding that they have to extend runway. They've got to show a lot more performance at an earlier stage than they did before, and it's more difficult to get that equity capital now, so people are looking in other areas. So I think the conversation today is going to be a fascinating one from that perspective.
Well, absolutely. And we're talking with a lady who has made a lot of investments, angel investor Heidi Diamond. Heidi really gets involved with her companies in a very deep way. She provides the extra value that so many investors talk about, but very few actually deliver. She's a partner at 125 Ventures, an active board member, and a consultant who specializes in revenue growth, marketing, and branding. All skills she honed at the Food Network and as a top executive for Martha Stewart Omnimedia. Thank you, Heidi, for coming by today.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So my first question is, you've held so many large positions at very impressive companies, some of the biggest media companies in America. How did you get interested in helping startups?
You know, I think it starts from being a camp counselor back in the day. I've always mentored people. It just kind of comes natural. I was a graduate school professor for a long time also, and my interests are diverse. I've been in the media business for a long time, but my interests are really diverse. I like business, so I like learning about businesses.
So the startup paradigm is so interesting because it's mostly been operating in an era of very inexpensive or free money. And now we have much higher interest rates, which has changed the whole game. How are your startups reacting? How are you helping them navigate the whole process?
Try being an X chromosome and try and get money. I was also an entrepreneur. I raised money. I kissed a lot of frogs looking for the prince, princess, somebody. It's a very tough environment. It requires a lot of diligence on your part as a founder to find the investors that are appropriate and align with your business or your business sensibilities. My worst pet peeve is the cold email that you get that's formulaic, and it says, based on your portfolio, this would be ideal. What the hell do I know about biospace or aerospace? They clearly have not done their own good research. So shame on those founders. Shame, shame, shame.
Well, worse than shame is there'll be no funding, right?
Precisely. And not only that, it's a waste of their time. It's a waste of my time. I'm polite. I'm always polite. I wish them continued great success. Pass. Hard pass.
So much of it at that stage, Heidi, is really not about money, right? It's about finding the founder who is really interested in what you're doing.
Well, and finding a company that shows the grit that it takes to be a founder, shows the determination, the persistence. Are they coachable? Are they aligned with what your values are, your value proposition? So I guess it's a lot like dating. And as a single girl, I've kissed a lot of frogs.
So the age-old question in angel investing is, you bet on the horse or the jockey?
I think it's a combination of both. And it's so easy as an investor. It's so easy to fall in love with a founder. And, I was involved with a couple other angels. We loved the founder. We loved her story. We loved everything about it. It was taking months for her to get an operating agreement together. What does that telegraph? If she can't, it's something about her lawyer, find another lawyer. Like, if they're not moving, I pulled out. Right away, that telegraphed to me that there was going to be trouble on the horizon.
I think founders sometimes don't understand how much the small signals they send in the beginning of a relationship really characterize the tone of everything that's going to happen. Is it a big deal for somebody to be 15 minutes late? In the scheme of the world, no, it's not. But when all I know about you is your business and we've made one appointment and you're 15 minutes late for it, It sounds petty if you complain about this, but really, as investors, we have to make judgments based on very little information.
Precisely. I was at a pitch competition recently. This guy was going on and on and on and on, and I was one of a couple of panelists. And I said, "What the hell have you just told us?" He could have gone on for 13 days, and he couldn't land the plane at all. Mm-hmm. So efficiency of their time, my time, those that are also involved, is also a good characteristic.
Yeah. So when you find the right founder, and this is where we bring Johnnie in because he's doing financial accounting and reporting, and he's trying to get these companies in shape, right, to be attractive to investors. How important is that? How important is the info that they're providing?
I was a founder now almost 10 years ago. We didn't have things like the data room. Wouldn't that have made my life so much easier when you're, forever pitching? So being able to clearly see all of the elements of somebody's business that you need to review as you're doing your diligence, that's a huge help. Financial health, transparency, how are you going to get to profitability? Tell me that in 10 slides, no more, no less, maybe less, but all of those things are critical.
Yeah. Now, I think Johnnie would say that sometimes the most dynamic founders are the ones that are the least interested in getting everything buttoned up, right? And that's a struggle sometimes for what you do.
Yeah, and I think it's getting that focus on it, because I think a lot of the time founders have the perception that this stuff can be left till later. And in some of it, certainly can. But a lot of it, really, you need that attention to the detail as you go, which is to make sure that the business is represented correctly with the authorities. So from a finance and a tax perspective. But at some point, if your business does grow and you actually start to become successful in terms of raising more money, as you well know, you're going to get audited at some point. And so you have to have those books that are enough detail in there, there's enough tracking, there's enough sort of connection to actually what went on that you can then draw and look at and make sure that you can respond properly in an audit scenario. And you want to be prepared for that. And it doesn't cost much to be prepared for it.
So Heidi, what are the most important things that a founder can do to get you interested in their company?
Again, knows something about me, knows something about the type of investment that I might be interested in. To be fair, that's often changing. I never thought I'd be involved in climate tech or green tech. I've invested not once but twice in a company that is revolutioning EV charging in urban areas, and they're doing fantastic. But knows something about me and why I might be interested. My background is pretty clear. I've been an executive at a bunch of media companies. If you've got something to say in the media, I'm probably interested. If you have something to say about ad tech, martech, media, sports, entertainment, you got me. I'm on the hook. But then take a look at some of my other investments. Like I said, cannabis has been a big interest of mine. Crypto, I'm involved in some crypto stuff. All things I didn't know about early on, but found my interest. So
when you've got your portfolio and the founders in that portfolio, what are the ways in which they should be preparing themselves for that next round of funding that comes after the angel rounds? And to what degree should they look to leverage angel investors that are current investors of their companies to try and get access to that next round of finance?
So I'm a great connector, and whereby I might not invest in a company, I have probably, 3 to 8 people I might be able to introduce you to. I got hit up yesterday by a young founder who I like very much. He's asking for a lot of money. I'm not in a position to help him out at this moment, but I've introduced him to 3 ideal people, one who became an investor and an advisor, another one he just had lunch with in California. He's going to come in. So you never know. And my advice always is leverage your network. Who can provide a warm introduction? That old adage that a warm introduction is better than a cold one. I'll take a cold one if you know your stuff.
Yeah.
So I would, suggest those types of things. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to meet at a conference, in a taxi cab, waiting for a taxi cab at a conference, that type of thing.
Yep.
Right. I think the first time we met, Heidi, you were taking a founder around New York, helping him find some space and looking for personnel. What other kinds of things do you do? You seem much more involved in your companies than most angel investors.
I think that's sometimes a really good thing, and I'm sure sometimes a founder might not think it's such a good thing. But I'm a good coach. I'm a good counselor. I'm a good, shoulder to cry on. I have a vast network. People have been smart about leveraging that, and I kind of can't keep my hands off a little bit, and it's my money, so I'm interested. I'm an LP in a fund. I don't like being on the outskirts. I don't have any say. I don't like that. So lesson learned in my investing journey. It's just not my thing.
Are any of your companies using alternate forms of financing, like receivables financing or revenue-based financing?
It's a new trend. Some of certainly the early stage companies aren't in a position yet to be able to take advantage of that. I think as I continue my investing journey, if I get to a point where I'm in a C round or a G round or whatever, I'm sure that's much more plentiful than somebody who had a great idea and is in a garage and literally, maxing out credit cards to pay the light bill or whatever.
Well, some of those companies end up spending more, actually, right? Because it's based on their revenue, and they can't get those loans unless they're revenue positive.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, they're actually paying more, but they're not taking in new investment in a down round, or they're not, doing it at a depressed valuation. So that's kind of seen as the advantage.
You know what? I'll tell you something that's all of a sudden interesting again. When I was raising, I did a crowdfunding campaign. That's a real lot of work, a hell of a lot of pre-work. And then I've helped a couple of companies do crowdfunding. Again, a lot of work. And then you didn't hear about it for a long time. And sure enough, a woman that I've known for years, she's in the advertising business. She is in a particular segment of the business that she's had a lot. She's in what she calls sex tech, and she's had a hell of a time trying to raise money all these years. She's bootstrapped, blood, sweat, and tears, and damned if she didn't launch a crowdfunding campaign, and she's doing fantastic. And she's posting comments and testimonials on her LinkedIn. Somebody invested $50,000, somebody invested $50. It doesn't matter. She's doing beautifully. I'm sure she's saying to herself, why didn't I think of this years ago?
How much of that is because she's in sex tech?
I think a lot of it is also her personality, and
Right.
and she's pretty well known. So,
Right.
And what she's raising money for, there's a segment of the population that's pretty interested in it.
Right.
So,
And we're hearing there are more and more angel investors getting involved now because I think, the company valuations are down a little bit, right? 21 and 22 were just crazy. And now it's, for savvy investors, it really is a great opportunity to get in and get a foothold in angel investing and look at some of these opportunities.
Is one of the things that you can pursue with the founders actually helping them get access to strategic partnerships?
yeah, and in particular, how that, I think, first of all, enhances the founder's credibility or the company's credibility because they partnered with X, Y, and Z company. Whether the X, Y, and Z company is known or not known, it just shows additional sensibility. I just, the other day, I heard the Mega Millions is now at like 348 million. And a year or so ago, I downloaded Jackpocket, which I can buy lottery tickets on my phone. Again, I like to gamble, so $2 here, $10 there. damned if I didn't just see DraftKings did an acquisition and bought Jackpocket. Brilliant.
Wow.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So finding those kinds of synergies, the EV company that I told you I'm invested in, they're just about to launch a partnership with Uber. Makes tons of sense. Uber's mandate is all EV cars by 2020. Plus the city's mandates are also about that. So how that will enhance a founder's business quickly is unbelievably useful. A PR firm that I was involved with one of my founders, every year they do a shout out. They want to help underrepresented people. They'll give 3 months of free PR services. A founder I met in Buffalo, she and her sister have a really interesting company. It's Black History Month. They're looking for underrepresented. Damned if I didn't say, you've got to pitch this. So those kinds of things enable you to get further faster, in my opinion.
And there's certainly some investors who are skeptical of strategic partnerships because of the sense that it locks in the sort of, initial rights or some overarching rights on behalf of the strategic company. Is that something you've seen as like a deterrent, or how people react to that?
I think it depends on the situation. In some cases, you want exclusivity. My EV company wants exclusivity with Uber. In other cases, you don't want to limit yourself. You want to play the field, if you will, and have a bunch of companies that just, you never know. It could segment you to a different target audience. It could enhance your business in a way that you didn't necessarily expect.
How about grants or non-dilutive funding? Do you advise most of your companies to do that?
I've sat on nonprofit boards. I don't know a lot about grants, but I know what a bonanza it is when a nonprofit gets one, and how that literally sustains them frequently for the year in terms of their budget. I think it's well worth investigating those opportunities, local as well as national. I think once you get like a government contract, it's like, yippee, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah. Because once you're in, and frequently those contracts just continue to renew.
How do you feel about AI?
You're talking to a journalism school graduate. I have a lot of ethics that I feel particularly when I hear kids using it to write their term papers. So I have a lot of issues with that. I think it's amazing in terms of what it will. It's amazing for me as a research tool. Perplexity is my new favorite versus ChatGPT, because I think the model that they built is a little bit more current and it's giving me more accurate information. I've heard of people, I've never done it, I've heard of people they've created spreadsheets, 1, 2, 3, by giving the correct prompts. That would be something that would be helpful to me, because I'm forever calling a millennial to help me with my pivot table or something. So I'm very in favor of AI to help things, but I definitely have a point of view when it's being used as a substitute for appropriate writing.
Are you looking at any of it for your investments?
I have not been. It's not my bailiwick. An old beau years ago taught me a good lesson when I started, investing in the stock market. And he said, invest in what you know, or invest where you have a passion. And that was a good bellwether to follow. I don't think I'm knowledgeable enough about AI to dip my toe in the water, other than to use it as a resource tool.
It's this funny sort of landscape developing where you've got this content automation for the creation of it, and then there's a lot of AI being used to actually review and segment and summarize up that content. And so you have this kind of funny world where there's a lot AIs on both sides.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem like that's very sustainable.
Well, like
so
even how we're making this podcast, if AI can help in the editing process, that's fantastic. How much time that would save, how much money that saves. In other types of post-production, I just don't want to see the authenticity of something diminished.
Yes.
Right.
And somebody's creativity. You don't want to see that diminished either.
Right. Well, Heidi, thank you for your authenticity and for all that you're doing for founders at such a crucial time. I know that they appreciate it, and you're also a great podcast guest, so thanks for coming by.
Oh, pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You can find contact information for our guest today at our website, theangelnest.com, where you can also reach me if you know of an interesting company or an exciting opportunity or an angel investor that we should talk to. My email is david@theangelnest.com. I'm David Hemingway. We produce The Angel Nest with help from David Newhoff at the Art Deco Film Center building just west of Times Square in New York. Thanks for listening.